Justin Bieber has become a total enigma. Very difficult to classify, actually. And we're going to talk about it right after this.
More to the Story, a show that explores what's happening in the world from a Christian perspective. Subscribe on the platform where you're enjoying the show, or go to freegrace.in to subscribe for email notifications of our releases.
In the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a mother in Stratford, Ontario, who was praying. What was she praying for?
She prayed that God would use her son as a modern prophet Samuel, a voice to his generation, a youth pastor perhaps, or even a singer on a Christian label.
At least that's the story, according to a 2009 article in the New York Times. Why would the New York Times be reporting on an Ontario mother's 2 decades old prayer? Because she was the mother of Justin Bieber.
As a kid, Justin attended a Catholic school and earned a 4.0 GPA. He started getting notoriety, however, on YouTube, as his mom would post videos of him singing and showing off his myriad musical talents.
He's been putting up videos on YouTube, and he is now the #1 most subscribed to musician in Canada on YouTube. And number 20th in the world. Justin Timberlake and Usher were actually fighting over who could sign him, and so we just signed with the music label, and we're moving in about a week to the US.
Justin Timberlake, sometimes known as JT, was interested in signing Bieber as well, but he got concerned that fans would get confused to discover that there was actually another Justin. Sad news, I'm sure, when he discovered that there are other Justins in the world.
The Bieber brand of Justin was signed at 13, began working with Usher, and his first release was certified platinum within a few months. His fame and success have grown ever since. It seemed his mother's prayers would remain unanswered, however, as he didn't take the path of a youth minister, prophet, or Christian singer, to be sure.
With his success came loads of trouble. In his late teens and early 20s, he was arrested for various issues, including drugs, and driving under the influence, and other forms of disorderly conduct. Once he urinated into a restaurant mop bucket and weirdly cussed out Bill Clinton, who wasn't present or president at the time. Now, I thought this might have been one of those Clinton conspiracy theories, but no, he really did do that. At another time, his home was raided by the FBI. The cause? He had egged a neighbor's house. Also fact, not a Clinton conspiracy theory. So he was technically a criminal, but like a silly criminal from that 1960s Batman show where the so-called evil schemes were so asinine that no one would take him seriously except a pair of spandex-wearing conspiracy theorists. So the trouble Justin was causing got so bad, and I guess we could say embarrassing, that a petition was signed by 270,000 Americans, which attempted to return Justin to Canada. Apparently, they have a no-return policy because we didn't get our money back, and he's obviously still here.
Justin has had a sordid past, and it cost him a tremendous price. But something started to change for him around 2014. That something was seeded by his mother years earlier. Justin had been raised by a devout evangelical mom who prayed for him and did her best to bring him up in the faith. When Justin was young, his mother used to put him to sleep by playing recorded sermons from church home pastor Judah Smith. As a megastar, teenage Justin and Pastor Judah connected. On meeting, Justin reportedly said, "Your sermons used to put me to sleep." Since then, things have been different for Justin, and people have noticed. Justin is now a member of a church home where Judah Smith is pastor. Though he did a relatively private baptism around 2014, he and his wife Haley underwent a public baptism in August of 2020. He shared pictures of the occasion on Instagram and said that it was, quote, "the moment Haley Bieber, my wife, and I got baptized together. This was one of the most special moments of my life, confessing our love and trust in Jesus publicly with our friends and family." End quote.
Over the years, Justin has gone from being a self-centered Bieber to a Christ-centered believer. See what I did there? He is still massively successful as a recording and touring artist, but notes of his faith now sing through the music and messaging that he produces. He's known to share Bible verses in the middle of his gigs. He sometimes prays during shows, and on occasion he even invites Pastor Judah Smith on stage to share a message with the crowd.
What you see on this stage is really, really average, broken people that God has forgiven, and it is that forgiveness that has set us free. I have good news in the preach.
In an interview for his 2020 album Changes, Justin talked about his faith with Zane Lowe in an Apple Music interview. Note that Zane Lowe is known to make occasional anti-religious comments. That doesn't stop Justin from openly talking about Jesus with him.
The way I look at my relationship with God and with Jesus is I'm not trying to earn God's love by doing good things. God has already loved me for who I am before I did anything to earn and deserve it. It's a free gift by accepting Jesus. What he did is the gift. The forgiveness is the thing that we look at and, I'm going to worship you, God, because you gave me something so good.
Now, admittedly, the theologian in me would want to help Justin clarify what he's saying here a little bit, but I'm convinced that fundamentally Justin seems to understand that he's saved by grace and that it's accomplished through faith apart from works. And I think maybe the best way to clarify what he's saying about salvation and his position on that is to cite the belief statement of the church that he endorses. And this church, called Church Home, is a place where he occasionally has served as a worship singer as well.
Church Home is a charismatic-leaning congregation with a belief statement that specifically says, quote, "We are saved by grace. We believe that we receive salvation, the forgiveness of our sins and reconciliation to God by grace through faith in Jesus." Justin has not only believed in Jesus for salvation, but in the past half-decade, he's cleaned up his life, gotten married, and become comfortable sharing his faith in some of the biggest venues in the world. Just in case you might think he only shares his belief for the sake of public appearances, not so.
Now, my favorite story of Justin sharing his faith comes from a pretty surprising source. Yoshi Barrigas is an actor that you may recognize from the smash hit series The Chosen. The Chosen is a multi-season show about the life and work of Jesus. Now, you'll recognize him as the actor who plays Philip. In an interview with CBN News recently, he shared a surprising experience that he had. Now, the story he tells in this video took place before Yoshi was a recognizable actor. And at that time, he says he would not have considered playing a part in a faith-based project. Notice what changed his mind.
I had a moment when I was on a hike in Los Angeles. I heard some chirping to my left and some female voices kind of freaking out, and I look over and it was like all this commotion and I wasn't too sure what was going on. So I paid it no mind, and I suddenly heard a voice say, "Hey, what are you reading over there?" And I look over and it was Justin Bieber. I had a conversation on this cliffside for some time, and he interrupted me at one point and said, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really feel in my bones that I'm meant to introduce you to my church. So would you come? And at the time, I had no real interest in any kind of church. But as I said to him, I'm not going to say no to you, man. You're Justin Bieber, so let's go. But he was really cool about it. He's like, if you like it, we'll stay. And if you don't, then we can go and grab a beer. And so I was like, all right, cool. No pressure. Let's go. Long story short, I ended up going to that church every Wednesday for about 6 months. I have all this knowledge now about what the Bible's about. I'm reading it on my own for the first time, and suddenly this audition comes in. And so I felt very prepared for it, and it felt like something I really wanted and was really motivated to get. And so, and here we are.
He's still a working professional in the hip-hop and pop industry, but his work has begun to lean toward more godly subjects.
A great example of this is his EP, or his extended play record, that he recently released, which is totally a Christian record, but it does have profanity. so it's a bit of an oddity. I mean, the album is called Freedom, and it has lyrics like this. On the third day, you rose up, and you beat death once and for all. There's nothing like you, Jesus.
Justin's EP Freedom was released by Def Jam Records, a label known for artists like Jay-Z, DMX, Public Enemy, and Beastie Boys. Needless to say, they are not known for producing Christian or even religious-friendly material.
Now, I couldn't sleep the other night, and so I pulled out my headphones and I listened to this album for the first time. It's called Freedom. I listened to it while I laid in bed. I was mesmerized. You could almost say transported. It was an experience. I had my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, and I was thinking, what am I listening to here? I mean, even Christian artists aren't nearly as honest and bold as Justin was in this album. I mean, in the same song that has explicit language, there's also this prayer, literally a prayer prayed by Justin on the mic for all of his listeners. Other songs had preaching interludes where Pastor Judah Smith came on the recording. The lyrics speak so unabashedly about Christ, and not just a little bit. It's the honest and raw work of a secular megastar artist who has truly found Jesus and has almost ensured the record has no market niche at all, with language too coarse for the Christian audience, but too much talk about Jesus to be a secular hit. Now, if coarse language is a turnoff for you, then I get it. I understand if this record isn't for you, but it's amazing what Justin has produced here. He's sharing his faith in an authentic way as a voice of a generation to youth and young people all over the world. So I'm truly amazed by the transformation of Justin Bieber, and I think there's a lesson in it for us. I hear people complaining about how awful the world has become, how hostile Hollywood is to the faith, how horrid the times and conditions are in the world where we live. When I see stories like Justin Bieber's, it gives me pause. I mean, out of the dirt of secular society, sometimes the seed of God's word takes root in unexpected places and blossoms into what we see in men and women like Justin Bieber. He's a gospel-sharing phenomenon whose sometimes foul language is often used to glorify Christ. He does seem to be a tool that God is using to bring his message to places otherwise untouchable. It's a reminder of what the prophet Daniel once said.
He changes the times and seasons. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. Daniel 2:21.
To those of us who have traded in hope for despair about how society is heading to hell, how dare we think that our communities, our schools, and our neighborhoods are too far gone? How dare we think God doesn't have a plan to raise up voices for our generation? If he can raise up a Justin Bieber to give the gospel to people who otherwise wouldn't listen, he can do amazing things in our cities, countries, and world. Millions of believers are more open to becoming believers because of Bieber. God is still in control, and he can do great things in your corner of the world too. Don't miss a special extended version of this episode on podcast with a few deleted scenes we had to cut for time. You can get that at freegrace.in. You can also catch up on some of our other content, such as our kids program, our daily devotionals by Sean Lazar, our Bible study by me, and much more. All of that at freegrace.in. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with you soon.